Cena spent 2 hours talking to Cody Rhodes on his podcast this week. They actually recorded it the Monday after the match, and they talked about a lot of things. But one thing that Cena talked about was the finish and what he was trying to go for with it. As he said in the interview, as the artist, what it meant to him and what he was trying to convey, once he puts it out there, it's going to mean different things to different people. And as he said, it's no longer my art. When I share it with everybody, it's no longer my, he's so weird. But it's no longer my art when I share it with other people. Hence the negative reaction to it in the building that night. But this is how he summed it up. For the last 5 minutes, everything I preach about story and drama and having a conversation with the audience, the ones I love are in the front row. I know my colleagues are watching on the monitor back there. We're just in a sleeper hold, man. But we're having that conversation with the audience. As I essentially take my last breath, I have struggled. If you think of somebody, the natural causes scenario, or however we picture loss in our life, all of us have been through it. They struggle. They hang on just long enough to make sure to say goodbye to everybody that's been meaningful in their lives. And the whole day was so many unbelievable, vulnerable, meaningful conversations. Then you realize I've connected with everybody I love. Physically, I feel great. I think it's time to take that last breath, and that's that. I hate to keep going back morbidly to obituaries, but this person died peacefully. Knowing that, man, we are in a good place. We're going to be great going forward. The bottom of the t-shirt says, I gave everything, thank you for everything, and in that one moment, that was that. Going peacefully. Again, my issue with it isn't that Gunther won and John Cena lost. It's how it was done. He got the tap out, but for me, I think Cena can convey that same type of story by going peacefully in the hold without tapping out. When he threw up the okay hand signal after the arm drop twice, you do that. You flash that smile and you drop that arm slowly, staying true to your never give up mantra, right? Right up until the very end. But you still accept your fate. You are essentially, in effect, you are sort of taking a step back and no longer fighting as hard as you were before. But you could still do it without just completely throwing in the towel. To me, the way he did it, it felt like it wasn't earned. That's what it felt like. It felt like, Gunther got the win, and he can go around and gloat that he's the guy who made John Cena give up, but it just didn't feel like it was fully earned. So, yeah, he'll go around and talk about how he made Cena tap out like a little bitch, but if Cena chose to tap out with a smile on his face, you know what? It wasn't really earned the way that it could have been. It's an empty brag. He'll still get plenty of heat for beating John Cena regardless, as he did on Monday. Get that heat. Get that heat and make some money off of it. But no matter how many movie analogies people come up with to try to justify it and to explain it away, I did not like the finish. And the people who didn't like it are plenty justified in feeling that way. Cena could have gotten his closure while also giving the fans some closure, and giving them something to feel good about through whatever sadness or disappointment that they may have had, given that he lost. I think that tells a great story too. And it doesn't radically alter the level of heat that Gunther has coming out of this. And he did have a lot of it on Monday. It wasn't Roman Reigns levels of heat the way that he had after WrestleMania when he beat The Undertaker, but he still got plenty of it. And they even did a tease for a future match with Gunther and AJ Styles when he left the building. Everybody was giving him the stink eye, right? He came out, did his shtick, his promo in the ring. He wasn't out there for very long. And he's leaving. He's going through the back, and everybody's staring at him and giving him the side eye. And Adam Pearce comes up to him. I hope you're happy with yourself. You can leave now. So he's leaving the building, and AJ Styles is leaning up against Gunther's rental car. So he got a little stare down before Gunther got in the car and he drove off, but not before rolling down his window to do the "you can't see me" gesture. And he's laughing like a cartoon villain. And then he drove off. That was great. I don't know if AJ is planning to work the whole year next year. He may need to extend his contract if he's going to do that, or if he's only working through WrestleMania and then hanging up the boots. But Gunther against AJ is the natural match, so they can give him another big name to brag about retiring. But I just want to see the match. It's the match that they haven't done. Where I don't think he needs it is when you get into a name like Brock Lesnar, because Cena hinted recently that Lesnar may be retiring in Minnesota, and Minnesota is where SummerSlam is next year. You know, if Brock even has a proper retirement match. I mean, Cena, I absolutely believe John Cena will never wrestle again. Brock Lesnar, I am a lot less sure of. I think if the payday is big enough and they wanted him to work, let's say, a Mania match or a Saudi Arabia match, he would do it. I don't get the impression that Brock is big on, I need my closure. I got to have a retirement tour. I got to have a retirement match. And they're going to have a whole, celebrate. You're not going to get that, I don't think, with Brock Lesnar. I don't think he gives a shit. He's all about the payday. He's all about business. If there's business to be done and physically he feels like he can do it, then what the fuck is he going to retire for? He already missed 2 years. He got paid the entire time, by the way. But he already missed 2 years. They just brought him back. You think he's itching to leave? But let's say he does. Let's say he wrestles one last match at SummerSlam next year. Gunther does not need to be the man to retire him. Do the match next year if you want to. You know, you want to do Gunther and Brock? Fine, do it at Mania. But when it comes time for Brock to lose, it would be much more valuable to give that honor to someone like Braun Breaker or Oba Femi. Oba would have to already be on the main roster and at least semi-established. And that hasn't happened yet. But it should be one of those two. Doesn't need to be Gunther. You know, for Gunther, it's on them now to treat him the way they treat Brock. He needs to be leveled up so that, he retired Cena. He's got to be used as more of a special attraction when he's on the show. He shouldn't be on the show every week or anything. I'm not saying make him a part-timer, but they need to book him in a way where people see him similar to how they saw Brock for the last decade. And when he finally loses again, and maybe he doesn't even lose next year, but when he finally loses again, it should really mean something. Because, this is a guy who lost to Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. He lost to Cody Rhodes. He tapped out to fucking Jey Uso, who's back in the tag team division now. He got beat by CM Punk at SummerSlam. It should be a long while yet before Gunther loses another match. Meanwhile, you got one fan, and I put that in quotation marks here, fan, who tried to cash in on Cena's retirement with a very unusual item on eBay this week. There was a listing that popped up, and it wasn't up for very long. It was pulled very shortly thereafter. But there was a listing from a user named Robbie Thompson, who does have a 100% positive seller rating on eBay. But it was featuring a photo of a plastic Ziploc bag with the label Crisp Air from John Cena's last match at WWE Saturday Night's main event. Yes, they were selling air from the show, and the asking price, a mere $1,700. And the person included 2 photos to verify its authenticity, that it was in fact air collected from the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. I thought it was bad when someone bought a piece of chewed gum from Britney Spears for $14,000. $1,700 for the stench of defeat and the stench of 19,000 wrestling fans. I think that tops that. I think it clears the bar. Look, I know there are a lot of fans out there that are oxygen deprived. I've seen them on social media. They could use the air, but it's going to take a lot more than what's in that plastic bag to help those people. What else did Cena talk about in the interview with Cody? He confirmed what I've been telling you all along. The heel turn at Elimination Chamber was just done for a viral moment. There was never any real story attached to it. You could see it with your own 2 eyes if you just watched the product this year, but I know a lot of you have tuned out of the product. This is what he said. In February, they just wanted to make a moment. I get it. The business is about making moments. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't always have to have a 9-month trajectory. You can understand that, we've got a ton of eyes on us tonight. Let's do something impactful. And then you, as artists, can run through the maze and figure it out. So basically, shoot first, ask questions later. That usually doesn't work out too well. He makes it almost sound like this is just any other storyline, any other star. Sure, there are times where you may want to pivot. You may have this great idea that pops into your head or something. This, though, was a little bit different. This is something that they knew was coming for months, and they had one shot to make it right. And it's as if they treated it like any weekly storyline. Like, you can't compare this to any typical wrestling story on a wrestling show. He said he told the WWE creative team, I'll do whatever the fuck you guys want. Just stay on the face longer than you think. It's going to feel weird. Just stay. That's in reference to them keeping the camera on his face so that he could sell the turn at Elimination Chamber without having to say a word. But there you have it. One of the biggest stars in the history of the business, and certainly in the company, in the middle of his farewell tour, and they decide to blow the whole thing up because Ari Emanuel called Dwayne and said, hey, we need you. These tickets aren't selling as quickly as we'd like. You know, if Ari doesn't make that phone call, it's crazy to think we probably don't get that heel turn. I mean, we can't say for sure 100%, but it's very likely. The wheels are not set in motion for Rock and Triple H and all of them to embrace this whole idea to begin with. You know, for a company that loves to talk about story, they talk about story a lot. They seem to be more in love with the moments than the story itself. They seem to be more in favor of the moments, even sometimes at the expense of the story. Tell the right stories with the right people, and the moments will come naturally. But if there was one person I would have thought would be immune to this knee-jerk shit, it would have been Cena, but apparently not. So he added this when it came to fans being critical of the retirement tour because of The Rock and Travis Scott not being around for the follow-up of the turn. Now, mind you, I couldn't care less about Travis Scott being there for the follow-up. He never should have been there to begin with. And I say that as someone who didn't even mind him being in the ring that night when it happened. You know, he's a big star. They wanted a celebrity to be in the ring with them for it in the background. Fine. I had little need to see Travis Scott actually wrestling. But it wasn't about him. It was about The Rock. It was about Rock attaching himself to the story with the soul stuff and doing something with Cena. You know, so he decided here in this interview to take a walk down what he called hypothetical street. He told Cody, let's say everyone who showed up at the chamber is active until August. That robs us of John Cena, Randy Orton. That robs us of John Cena, CM Punk. John Cena, Ron Cena. John Cena, AJ Styles, John Cena, Logan Paul, me and you for the last one, mano a mano. So yes, the story that might have had star power and gravity and who knows what, but what we got by just being like, these are the pieces left. What we got for me personally was beautiful. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. I've released art into the world. They can think what they want about it. I'm just also saying that, like, is it a wise investment in time? And what I've learned about, like, credible wrestling critiques, of course it is, because you want chatter and clickbait, but let's analyze what happened. I was in the ring with you. I was in the ring with Randy and Punk and Ron Cena, Logan Paul, AJ Styles. It was really loud. So judging by the wise man, Shawn Michaels, does that mean we did okay? Sometimes all these hypothetical things, let's just figure out what it is, why we're doing it, and climb that hill in front of you, because it's going to change. I have no idea what he's talking about when he's saying that, you know, if these guys are around, we're not getting all of these different matches. If Rock and Travis Scott are active in this story through SummerSlam, why does that have to rob us of getting John Cena against Randy Orton? Or John Cena against CM Punk? Or AJ Styles? Or the rematch with Cody, which, of course, that was always going to happen. You know, is it possible if one of those guys sticks around, maybe one of those matches ends up not happening and they go a different way? Sure, I suppose it's possible. But do you honestly believe that even if those guys were around, we were not going to get one last John Cena Randy Orton match? That we were not going to get one last John Cena CM Punk match? If Rock was actually around for some TV appearances, it would have enhanced it. Because think about what Rock said, or Punk rather, coming out of WrestleMania, looking into the camera, calling Dwayne a bald fraud. Like, if anything, it would have enhanced the build up to the fucking match. I don't know why he thinks that, well, you know, if these guys were around, we would have been robbed of all of these matches. No, we wouldn't have. I mean, he's doing a lot of heavy lifting with that quote. But, you know, again, this is Cena being Cena. This is Cena being as diplomatic about the whole thing as he can possibly be. I don't believe that he believes that. I don't. I think there's a lot of good stuff from this interview with Cody, a lot of knowledge being dropped and cool little anecdotes that they shared. but I also don't believe that he believes some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth when he answers these questions. I think he's trying to put lipstick on a pig. And you can do that, but at the end of the day, no matter how much lipstick you lather on and what color it may be, it's still a pig. Cena may have retired from wrestling, but he's got a new career waiting for him as a contortionist with some of these answers. Of course they were going to do one more match with some of these people. They were musts from the minute he announced his retirement and Money in the Bank. People were like, oh, we got to get Cena and Punk. We got to get Cena and Orton. He was going to have to defend his title against someone in those 6 months. Does he say that he wouldn't have wrestled in those 6 months? I'm not following the logic there. Cody also put him on the spot and asked him about his favorite match, because Cena used to always say when he would be asked that question, what's your favorite match? My next one. Which, again, that's just such a John Cena way of answering that question. So now he's retired. And Cena, he can hear him asking the question. He knows where he's going, and he's like, you son of a bitch. And good on Cody for thinking to ask it now, right? He goes, all right, so you're retired now. There is no more next match. So let's see what his answer is. So first he runs through the highlights that fans would expect. Oh, I could say winning my first championship. I could say capturing my 16th and my 17th world titles. I can mention stepping into the ring with The Rock or the Firefly Funhouse match, all of these things. But no, you would be wrong. He said, I can't get past Phil Brooks, CM Punk, Saudi Arabia. That might be my favorite moment in wrestling. I thought that was going to a totally different place when he mentioned Punk. Then he mentioned Saudi, and I'm thinking, really? I'm like, all right, well, maybe for him it was, the experience of being back in the ring with him at all, which a couple of years ago would have seemed impossible. Maybe that is his favorite match, right? Maybe that is one of his favorite moments in wrestling. Standing across the ring one last time from CM Punk and Saudi. And they didn't have a bad match. Couldn't hold a candle to their earlier matches, but they still had what I thought was a good match. And Cody is like, oh, okay, you mean the match itself? And Cena says, no. And Cody goes, no? The promo? Because they had an in-ring promo on SmackDown. That was the one where Punk dressed up as the Doctor of Punkonomics. But you can see like Cody is like, oh, so you mean the promo? And Cena says, no, the pre-show. And Cody's reaction was like, the pre-show? I think Cody's reaction was everyone's reaction. He goes, the pre-show? He said it wasn't the match in Saudi that stayed with him. It was the pre-show segment where Punk publicly apologized to a Saudi fan in the front row. That was for his tweet to The Miz back in 2019, where he told him to go suck a blood-covered dick in Saudi Arabia, you fucking dork. His words. Punk was also on the show Pardon My Take that year. And when they asked him about working a Saudi show one day, he said, I'm not going to do a single one of those, right? So we know what his position was 6 years ago. But then WWE went and they pulled the ultimate rib on CM Punk. They booked the championship match with him and John Cena for Saudi Arabia at Night of Champions. And so on the pre-show, he was being booed by a lot of people, including this one guy, Mohammed, who was up in front. He was very upset with Punk. And he apologized. And he said that when I said that, I was just crabby. He goes, I have no issue with the people of Saudi Arabia. And they all cheered him. It's like a switch got flipped. It was that easy. Apparently, this moment moved Cena so much that he now considers it his favorite moment in wrestling of all time. He said, it wasn't the match, it was the pre-show promo. I was lucky enough to have a promo with him that night and a match, so I'm attaching myself to that moment because I think it's one of the best moments in wrestling. There is no shortage of divide. You had someone who, in a moment of frustration and reaction, said some pretty hateful things about a culture. And then you have that culture being like, fuck you, not in our house. Then you have a man who's brave enough to walk into the lion's den. And in the right moment, Phil was accountable for what he said. He gave a good explanation for the why and what can we do after that. I'm sorry. And then you leave it. That's all you can do. Forgiveness takes time, but that gentleman forgave him and broke the ice. The forgiveness was infectious. So what I saw was, holy shit, wrestling just brought cultures together. Wrestling just brought people with different ideologies together in an embrace and excitement. Phil went out there and they forgave him. I don't know if there's a better moment than that. I love growth. I love accountability. I'm an advocate for love and forgiveness, and that hit me in every right place. And that wasn't even a match. That was a segment on a pre-show. Boy, that Taiwan flap with China really had an impact on him, didn't it? I mean, look, it is certainly his opinion, and he is entitled to it, but wow. I don't even know what else to say to that. I just think it speaks for itself. That's his answer. Now, one article on Bleacher Report gave Cena's retirement tour an F grade. I think that's a little extreme. If we didn't get some of the matches that we did late in his run after they flipped him back babyface, then I would agree. But, yeah, the match with Cody at SummerSlam, the Crown Jewel match with AJ Styles, even the match with Gunther up until the finish, I would bump it up to a D. I can't go higher than that. I wouldn't give it an F, but to me, a D sounds about right. The heel run really ruined what could have been a great story. Had they cared enough to tell a real story throughout the year, instead of just piecing things together as they went along. It's not the invasion or anything from 2001, but the Cena retirement run is one of the company's all-time creative blunders. They won't see it that way because they made a ton of money on t-shirts and they sold a lot of tickets, which of course they were going to anyway because it's Cena's farewell. It's the easiest money this company will ever make. So business-wise, it was a huge success for them. By every other measure, it was a massive disappointment.